Financial Modeling and Business Analytics, Introduction to Spreadsheets and Database. The purpose of this lesson is to introduce to various people who are taking this course with basic concepts. Now, throughout the course, you will hear various terminologies which I just want you to understand right now so that you don't have to face issues of not understanding certain items. Now, data analysts and financial modelers depend heavily on information. You cannot be a data analyst unless you have a proper understanding on database management systems. You must have a basic conceptual idea, and throughout this session I will be stressing some of the basic terminologies which might be a refresher for some of you, and for some of you it might be new information. But in either case, I will make this a very short session so that if in case you're aware of most of these basic items, then you don't get bored. Now, the introduction of electronic spreadsheets, namely Excel, has really revolutionized the whole entire industry of technology as well as informatics. Similarly, database management system introduced from various companies, one of the top, Oracle, has also really transformed the whole industry. So it is imperative that you understand these concepts, and both the spreadsheets and the database management system will continue to play a key role in the Internet of Things and the artificial intelligence, 5G, blockchain, serverless computing, biometric, and as well as the 3D printing. These are all areas of emerging areas that could be an interest to you as well. Now, a spreadsheet, what comes to your mind when you say a spreadsheet? It is basically a combination of a column and a row. So that column is always a vertical line that goes like this, and the horizontal line is a row. A combination of both is referred to as cell. So if I want to refer to this position of my cursor, I will be required to say A1, which is what you see here. So that's basically my position. If I were to put this cursor here, it'll be B3. So that's a reference line. Now, it's a very basic concept, but has really, when you look at it, how the world has transformed because of the introduction of this simple column and row format. It's amazing. The same concept can also be applied for a table. A table is nothing more than a combination of many cells. So let's say if I highlight from here to here, you will see that I've highlighted 3 columns and I've highlighted 6 rows. That's basically a table. So in Excel, it's very easy for me to just go through your basic fundamentals of what a cell, a table, and the reference point is. Microsoft, by the way, is the most famous spreadsheet, but Google Sheets is also picking up nicely. Now, just to show you a table with data in it. So the way a data is organized is that normally on the header you would have the title of the column, and that column then really dictates what information you will be having in that column. So for example, if it's a student name, you will have student name. You should not be having student ID in that column. Similarly, in a record, all the data is related to each other. Here, all the data is similar on a vertical level. So again, those are very basic concepts that need to be clear from now. Data wrangling is a process of cleaning data. So a lot of times you get data which is in text, but then if you want to make it in a table format, you would need to clean it up, and that's one of the things that data analysts, one of the key jobs is to really gather data from social media. People keep writing comments, and those are in narration format. How do I bring that data into a table format, which is here? Side note, right now in this session, after this session, we are going to get into database management system and the complete project. Some students might prefer to start with Excel and then come back to this section, so it's completely flexible. It's up to you, up to your preference. Okay, so spreadsheets, I just wanted to highlight another point. Spreadsheets are the most common reason, and budgets and forecasts and analysis and data manipulation is most commonly done in Excel spreadsheets. But then once you need to store that data, the best practice would be for you to do that on the database, because in Excel, even though there are features that you can protect your data and data could not be manipulated with without authorization, still the database has a much more powerful process to secure your data. So although I've seen people use Excel to prepare payroll, but that's for a small number of people. But let's say if you have 5,000 employees, obviously Excel would be an overkill. So just to get the idea around someone who is new to these concepts. So let's start with the database. Now, when you talk about database, what comes to your mind? It looks like a battle to me, and information is considered power, and power is always money in a way. So yes, it is. This is a symbol of multi-layer disks, which basically are hard drives, and when you look at when you visualize it, it's like it's a layer of hard drives stacked up together, and information is there. This information in a relational database should be organized, but it could be in the raw format. In most cases nowadays, with so much data around, when you talk about big data now, big data is basically it's all around us. The number of people who chat, the number of people who write comments, add reviews, every single thing that gets digitized and gets recorded and gets on the web is now accessible to all these large corporations, but they need to bring that data back to them in a meaningful way. So you must have noticed that whenever you visit a site and you put your email and you're interested, the next day or maybe in the same day you start getting emails from similar products or similar services. Now that's where these companies are getting very intelligent and getting the data they need for them to target. So the companies the likes of Facebook ads or Google ads, they are all they keep track of, if you allow them, of course, and there are ways for you to say no to that as well. Now, data analytics is relatively a new process. It came or evolved as a result of so much data available. Now people are really getting into this, and they're the higher version of a data analyst would be a data scientist. But again, you have layers, and for now, if you become an analyst, first step for you is to understand database. I am sure this diagram brings back memories. If some of you have gone through high school or uni, they must have shown you this diagram, and to me it does bring back memory. It's the typical table and the relationships. The reason I have put here this table is it has become iconic in a way. So relational database management is you have tables, like table for a customer, you have orders table, and you have details. There is a relationship, and that's why we call it a relational database management system. So it's it's a collection of data which is tied up in a meaningful relationship. Now, I'm sure you guys will appreciate me going back all the way to bits and bytes. Now, a bit is the smallest unit of data. The reason I wanted to mention is that everybody, when they think about data, it's sometimes it's data, okay, fine, information, but how do you really quantify it? So back in the old days when we had the IBM XT8088, and that was back in 1980s, you had the 8-bit architecture. So at that time, 8-bit equaled 1 byte. Now, currently with the 32-bit architecture and 64 now as well, we have 4 bytes equal to 1. Well, 4 bytes is basically equal to 1 word now. So just very quickly, just to put things in perspective, nowadays we are in gigabytes. Next thing would be a terabyte drives, which is already in production. By next year, people will be buying petabytes, so exabytes, zettabytes, and then that's yottabytes. So production already up to here in commercial. I believe here we are already the likes of Google and Amazon. They are already in this level. Those are very. We're talking about huge data centers where they have that amount of data that they need to process, and you can imagine the speed that is required for that level. And they're already working on new names for the next level. Now, the idea is for you just to understand that table is basically a collection of various data. Now, the machine, how it translates is basically the bits, the character gets translated. So, for example, if I want to type E, it gets translated to a machine language using the binary digit format. So then again, for somebody who's very introductory to this, I wanted them to appreciate the fact that how data gets translated into machine language, and that is basically a combination of ons and off, 0 being off and 1 being on, and then the position of that tells you about the kind of letter. So if you look at the bit diagram, for example, if I want to type example, machine language back on the 8-bit architecture would have to send out this signals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Each letter corresponds to a 8-bit code, so that the machine understands this example. So just to translate that into a set of tables, a database is basically a set of tables. What is a table? A set of columns and rows, which I mentioned to you earlier. What is a column and row? A set of related or similar data. What is data? A combination of characters. And what is a character? A set of bits or 1 byte. Now, it's the same thing. I just wanted you to appreciate the fact and spend some time just to conceptualize your idea. Now, this is a very complex set of database architecture. You have so many tables, and you can appreciate the amount of linking going on here. But as a data analyst, if you're extracting data from a huge database, you need to understand the relationships that are involved here so that you'll be able to extract the required data for your analysis. Just to hit on some key terminologies for database. Now, database, you can use spreadsheets, but it is not an efficient way, as I already mentioned to you. You have customer tables, which can be from anywhere like 100 records to 1,000,000 records. Once you reach that level, definitely Excel is not the way to do it. Your orders, when you go to a supermarket, each line item, if you look at an order and imagine the number of items on that order, some people could be buying like 100 items, someone could buy like 10, but then when you add up, all this becomes huge. So again, we're talking about database again. We don't want to do that in Excel sheet. Same thing with the payroll, I already talked to you about. Same thing with manufacturing, production, inventory. You need a table and database. Excel spreadsheets are good for some summation and summary reporting, but Excel will not handle that kind of level of detail. CRM solutions and ERP systems is something I will be talking to you about in my other courses, but this has obviously impacted how databases are now looked upon, because a lot of this automation that's taken over is mainly because of the implementation of ERP systems and CRM systems, and again, they have transformed the entire industry. Now, why do we create multiple tables? Why can't I just have a single table that will resolve all my issue? Well, the idea is called normalization. So you don't want to be adding field in the same table, which will become redundant. So back in the old days, every bit and byte was, sort of an issue in storage. So they came up with this very intelligent ways. For example, if you have a customer name and you have all the related information, you don't have to store that information again in a different table. Just use the order ID and connect it to the customer. Same customer name will be used, and all you need is an ID for that customer. All that information is available to you for each line item. Otherwise, if you have this in one table, imagine you have 5,000 products sold in the day, and then you have to repeat this 5,000 times. All this information doesn't make sense. So again, the normalization is a key thing for you to know. Primary key is the key that is basically unique to the table. So in this case, you have the primary key. A foreign key is the customer ID and sitting in a different table, but it's referenced back to the master table. A combination key is sometimes you have two keys combined into one. So this is the reason why you need to do that, because the shipping address or the ordering detail has to be a combination of order key and product ID. And that's where the combination key is. SQL command, select all from table. My goodness, I'm sure most of you went to high school or uni. If not, you must have heard this term one time or another. And don't worry if you haven't, because some of us just didn't go through this technology side at all. But then you need to have some basic SQL commands in your vocabulary as well. There are typical relationships like one-to-one, one-to-many, many-to-many, many-to-one, something for you to refresh if you already are not aware of this. And the table here basically tells you that we have a specific customer with an ID, customer name, product, and a price. Now, if I were to ship this to multiple locations, I would have to repeat the same person name multiple times with redundancy, so it doesn't make sense in a spreadsheet, as you can imagine. Now, in this in the following section, I will be creating a project, so I would like you to go through that. But for you to really learn, you need to follow my steps, because that way is really the way for you to learn. Watching videos is great. That's probably the first time you want to do that, and then second time, pause video, follow instructions, and then start video, and then follow instructions. So that way you will be able to create tables. You need to create fields in that. I will go through some basic query that you need to, and it's all right now in my demo. You don't have to write a single code. It's all GUI. It's through the interface, and it's all clicks. There is not a single piece of code that you have to type. Now with the new interface design, that's the beauty of the new technologies, that we as users, we don't need to be programmers, we don't need to be an IT specialist. All we need is basic understanding, concepts, terminology, and the user interface are so intelligent now that they allow you to develop complex solutions just by going through the graphical user interface. We will be creating relationships. We will be creating and designing user interface forms. We'll create and design reports. And of course, at the end, we need to navigate. For that, I have come up with a terminology, and it's easy for you to maybe remember. In any project that you have as a database, first of all, you need to create tables, TQR. So T for tables, Q is for query, R for relationship. So TQR, FRU. FRU is basically a forms, and then you need to create a report and then user interface to make sure you have the navigation. These are 6 steps that you really need to do in any project. It could be a huge project, or it could be a small project. For example, creating a payroll for your company, or creating a student registration form, or allowing people to come and pay for any course that you have registered in the training center. So it's very simple. Nowadays, technology has made it very simple for you to create these programs and implement them across all departments in the company.